between the two programs. If this sort of stuff is interesting to you, you should definitely take cisc310 because that's the only thing we talk about. This is the only kind of stuff that we talk about in cisc310, which is a generic programming class. We don't even use a particular programming language. But to explain this, let me just show you, what this looks like from the perspective of what we call a decision tree. Decision tree is pretty easy. Okay, we basically say, okay, sometimes we go this way, sometimes we go the other way. So in this case, we are checking, is the name tag Aoyang? If the answer is true, we go here, and then we print boring. If the answer is no, then we go here, which asks a second question. Is it a long name? If the answer is yes, then we'll go ahead and print, yes, it is a long name. If the answer is no, we don't do anything. That's why when I enter tag all by itself, it didn't do anything, because it is not tag Aoyang, and it is also not a long name, and therefore it doesn't do anything. After each one of these steps, they merge. So all of these steps will merge before the program gets out. Now let me go back and look at the other program, and I'll show you the picture or the pictorial representation of the other program so you can compare the two. The other one is separate ifs. Now the separate ifs, I will draw the picture on this side so that we can compare the two pictures. With this one, we have a simple decision tree here, which checks whether the name is tag Aoyang. Okay? If it is, it complains that it is boring. Okay? If it is not, that's nothing to do, because there's no else in any one of these conditional statements. So if there's no else, that means we don't have to do anything by default. After that, these two branches will merge and then continue on. It will continue to what? It will continue to do the second conditional statement. So the second conditional statement is sequential to the first one. It is not nested, it is not embedded into the first one. So the second conditional statement will check whether it is a long name or not. If so, it will print a message and say, oh, what a long name. If not, it will do nothing. And then these two paths will merge again to move on. Do you guys see the differences between the two constructs? One is just sequential. They're separate but sequential conditional statements. The one on the left-hand side. The one on the right-hand side is what we call a nested conditional statement, where one conditional statement, this entire conditional statement, is inside the other conditional statement. So the behavior is different, but it is different in a somewhat subtle way, because most of the time they behave almost exactly the same, but occasionally they will behave differently. The only time they behave differently in this case is when I type in the name tag Aoyang. One will give me two messages. That one will give me two messages, both boring, and it is a long name. Whereas this one will only give me one message. It will just say it is boring, and then it will skip everything else and go to the end, and therefore not even check whether the name is long or not. Okay, so did I answer the question that you had a little bit earlier? Okay, we are almost running out of time. So the only thing that I think I should do at this point is to give you guys an idea of what classes are offered, and possibly answer any questions that anyone might have about what you should take next semester. Are there any specific questions about next semester? How many people here are on the computer science track? Are you guys on the computer science program track? It's a particular degree. The computer science degree is a transfer degree to move on to a 4-year university. Move on to a 4-year university. Okay, let me just kind of quickly go over. We have about 2 minutes, so that's enough time to do it. If you are going into programming, if you want to transfer to a 4-year university, getting a computer science degree as your objective, what you should do next, if you have not done it already, is to take cisp300. Okay, that's basically the first class that will feed into all of the other programming classes. Okay, basically this class is all about programming, not using Scratch, but having the same talking about the same concepts. Okay. If your objective is to get a degree in, say, networking, then you have quite a few choices, but you have to pick one that has no prerequisite if you have not taken a networking class before. Any questions about this? Any other questions about our classes or what you should be taking next semester? Yep.
Is there any mathematics involved in the algorithm?
Oh yes, tons of math. People who do not like math will not like cisp300. I can tell you that much. Because let me tell you why. Because in that class, what we'll do, I'm just trying to find. Did I close Scratch already? I probably have. Okay. The reason why cisp300 is so heavy on math is because I will actually teach a technique where you can analyze the structure of a program, just like the one that finds the maximum of 3 variables. You analyze the structure mathematically, and you can prove mathematically that the program does what it is supposed to.
That's cool.
As a result, you don't need any test cases. You can prove once and for all, no matter what the values of those 3 variables are, it will still find the maximum of the 3. Okay? So a part of that class, has to do with that sort of, I would call it, program verification, which is really heavy on math because you are relying on, rigorous math concepts to prove the behavior of a program is blah blah blah. Okay? So that class is kind of heavy on math. My next class is cisp300, and in one of the classes, I asked the students, do you think you have to be do you think you have to be good at math before you become a programmer? Okay, but that's a tricky question because the answer is both yes and no. It depends on how good of a programmer do you want to become. Okay. Lousy programmers do not need to understand a whole lot about math. They just have to flip open a book such as The Idiot's Guide to PHP Programming with a CD-ROM with all the source code on it, right? You open up the CD-ROM, you look at the source code, you copy and paste, change a few names of the variables, and here is your web script. I'm done. Okay? But if you want to become a good programmer or a good software engineer, then math is a big thing, okay? Because it's all about can you effectively write and debug a program? Okay? So we'll go ahead and, this is the end of this class. Next week we'll have presentations. So don't forget about the presentations. And then after next week will be the finals week, and I'll give you guys a much better idea next week of what will be included in the final exam.
I was going to come by your class today. So